Hey everybody, it's Kyle with DTOM Knives and Gear. Today we are going to be doing the full review of the Leon Mah L1. This knife was sent in to the channel by Mr. Leon Mah himself. Such a great dude. Got the chance to meet him at Blade Show 2021. Even though in the unboxing, I couldn't remember what year I fucking went, even though it was only a few months ago because I'm not a smart man. Anyway, it's fucking funny. But I got to handle this knife just for a few minutes while I was there at his booth. And I also bought another knife while I was there. If you haven't watched the channel, and if you don't already know, I am pretty much a Leon Mah fanboy. My first knife that I ever received from Leon Mah was this guy. This is the Field Duty EDC, and he has a couple of different models. This one is the one with the bolster lock and the shredded carbon fiber. Boom, 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 boom. And just a beautiful knife. But the reason this knife is my favorite knife in the entire world is because of its design, and the detent and action of this is what I hold all knives to now. It used to be like the Kona Arius or something like the Evo 2.0, and those are all great action knives. This one, however, kind of takes a cake all over the place when it comes to the detent and action. Absolutely superb. So this was my first Leon Mah design and knife, and it has quickly become the favorite knife in my collection. And I have some pretty, expensive knives, and this one's not cheap. This one is a $450 knife, and it is a big size. So some people don't like that big size, and so he also comes out with something like this, which is the Leon Mah Field Duty EDC. Also one of my favorite knives because of everything I just said. The detent on this guy, now this doesn't have the closing action like that one does, because the blade is just a little bit, it's not as big, and so it doesn't have the weight to fall under that, so it's just so very smooth and very, that detent. Did you hear the suck of that detent? Oh yeah. So, and then of course, the big boy, I told him after this guy, if he's like, if you come up with another large knife, I'm going to buy it. And then he, maybe a month or two later, he came out with the Koof 4.0. Yeah, this one's also a big boy. The Koof, the kitchen utility folder, in LMAX carbon fiber, monoblock construction, just like this guy. But as you can see, it has this really nicely rounded back portion, which the transitions are just non-existent. So I love his designs, and I love that they are all made by Riot, because Riot kills every one of them as far as their design. So that's my Leon Mah story and my Leon Mah knives, and he sent me this guy. This is a flipper only design. However, it does have a nail nick, which you can reverse flick, and I'll show you that in a second. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is his integral. He's done a couple of different integrals. This one is the L1, and it is a full titanium integral, but milled out to put carbon fiber scales on. And there is the shredded carbon fiber, which is the same that is on my Field Duty. And like my Field Duty, I don't see any voids or anything in the carbon fiber. I mean, it is inevitable. Sometimes that's going to happen. But in the ones that I have, there are no voids in this carbon fiber. And the fit and finish, as usual from Riot, it's just superb. As you can see, they do that orange peel finish right here. You have your lanyard hole as you usually would have on an integral kind. I love this particular kind of design for a lanyard if you are going to use one. It does have his ceramic ball detent, which he has on almost all of his knives as well. That works phenomenally in the pocket. It's going to only stick up about that much out of your pocket. So it's basically deep carry. And of course, you guys know me, I don't have to have it. So one of the reasons that I really enjoy this knife is because it's a smaller knife, okay? So smaller knives have to have a few things to really get me going. This one has most of them. So I really want to be able, or any knife, not just a small knife, but I really want to be able to do the reverse flick. And the reverse flick on this guy is very, very doable. It is a lot like, crap, I didn't bring it out. Where are you at? Where are you at? The Ferrum Forge Stinger, because it has that little fuller there, and so I put the fat of my finger into that fuller and flick it out, and so I can do that very nicely. It's a little bit bigger on the on the Stinger than it is on this guy. So I was very worried that I wouldn't be able to do that. But once I got it in hand and started to play with it, I'm able to do it pretty reliably. It's not near as intuitive as a whole deployment, but it can be done. And the fact that I can do it really made me happy. It was a very happy moment whenever I did that. Because usually with a flipper only knife, I get bored. I don't like just having that particular deployment method. However, I will say this. I don't have many flippers, and the reason I don't have many flippers is because the detent has to be dialed like really well. And I've got the opportunity to handle the Holt haptic because of Kevin Lefty EDC, and that one was the perfect flipping detent for any knife that I've ever felt. Now, this one has half of that because the detent on this guy is superb. It doesn't fall shut like the haptic. It is a very, it's a smaller knife, thinner blade, so it falls, and then you do have to give it some shakes, but it is so freaking super smooth. But the detent on the flipper is perfect. Absolutely perfect. And the reason that that is so important and makes me so happy is because this is an integral. And all of the other integral flippers that I have had on the channel always have a weak detent. And that's a deal breaker for me now. I mean, it's doable. Most of the ones that I've had on, have been doable. But it is very refreshing to find a integral flipper that has a detent like that. I will show you that it is nearly impossible. I'm going to hold it just like this and just pressure until it breaks the detent, comes right up. There's not many knives that will do that at all. The Holt haptic was one of them. That's a, $1,000 knife. Now, integrals in general are going to be more expensive. This one is a Riot produced integral Leon Mah design, and I'm not exactly sure, to the dollar amount, but it's probably going to be around $600 for this particular model. But it's one of those things where an integral made by Riot, really good design, really good fit and finish, and just executed perfectly. I'm going to expect to pay that. Now, like I said, it's a smaller knife, but something that's also a little bit different than all of my other Leon Mah designs is the blade steel. This one is an S90V. All the other ones have either M390 or LMAX, which I love those steels. S90V is another steel that I really enjoy, and it's mainly because of the edge retention that you get with it. It will hold an edge forever. The toughness, I don't think, is as good as some of them other steels, but I'm not a steel expert. If you want more information on that, go to someplace like Outpost 76, Cedric and Ada, all those guys. They know way more than me because I am a very light user. But the S90V is very intriguing on this model because it's just not on. He doesn't have S90V on a very many. As you can see, it is a full flat grind, and it's pretty thin. It's a slicey little guy. I use this for my everyday task. When I have somebody else's knife on the channel, I don't go crazy. I just do the regular EDC tasks that I am accustomed to, and nothing really hard use. But this thing worked amazingly. Your classic drop point blade. This has a bead blasted finish, and bead blast finish look amazing. They scratch up a little bit more than your other finishes. If you have a stone wash finish or even a satin, plain satin finish, you'll see scratches on the blade a little bit more with that blasted finish. But it really does contrast well with this whole knife design because of the texturing that's on the bolsters and all the titanium, that nice orange peel. We'll get a closer look in a minute when we flip the camera over. But it's just a really, really beautiful package. I also love the pivots designs. Okay, so you have one side of the pivot. Because it is an integral, you'll see there that you have all T8 hardware too. I want to mention that. T8 hardware throughout. That's awesome. No T6s. Don't have to worry about that. And then you see that little lip right there. When you take this knife apart, it makes it easy to remove the bearings, take the knife apart and put it back together without having to, get everything sit in there and then slide the blade in. This is a very nice design for taking apart. I did not do that. It's not my knife. I'm not going to. But really, really love that pivot design and just the way that he put this together. It's just very, very beautiful. So we talked about the detent because that is the shining feature on this integral, and all the other integral flippers that I've had, this is just superb. I actually enjoy using this flipper. But the fact that I can do that really makes me happy. Ergonomically, this knife is smaller. So when I have my finger in that upright position, as you can see, the handle disappears in my hands. But I can still get 4 fingers around it. One of the things is whenever I have a flipper and it's a smaller knife, I can always feel if there's jimping on the flipper tab, because my hand is a little bit cramped trying to get all 4 fingers around there, and I definitely can feel that. It's not a hot spot. It's not poking me like a lot of other ones do, but because my hands are so big, I do feel that. Now, in this particular grip, in the saber grip with my thumb still has room to land on the jimping. The jimping is not as tall for my big hands, where as of right now, the jimping stops basically right there, and my thumb is here. So only the back portion of my thumb is on that jimping, but the jimping is done very, very well because it is not sharp whatsoever, but does feel and give you that that little bit of grip. And then, of course, with a high saber grip like I do, it's just kind of barely on there, but it's enough for me to index and know where I am with the knife. A little bit cramped. It does have this little flipper choil that, I don't know if that's a technical term, but that's what I call it. It's just a little bit smaller for my big fat sausagey fingers. So whenever I come up here, I am on the edge of the blade. So if I back off a little bit to just put the tip of my finger in there, it's very comfortable in this grip. If I do need to get detail, it's just not ideal for somebody with my hand size to really get my finger on there like I can with a regular finger choil, but that's not what that was designed for. It is just a sharpening choil and then an air flipper. But people with skinnier fingers, I believe you can use that as a choil, a flipper choil, if you will, and be very, very comfortable. I've just got 2 fat fingers. One thing that I also love about this particular design, man, it's hot in Alabama. Oh, I'm just seeing myself sweating right now. It is hot. One thing that I love about this design as well is not only does it have a good flipping action, a good smooth closing action, but whenever I do get my thumb in there to get the lock bar out of the way, and it stops there, it actually gets past that detent, and you don't have that double clutch action. Something like on the Hinderer, I put this down, it comes, and then it's not past the detent, and as you can see, it's not falling. And a lot of times it will go back like that. I'm not a fan. I keep this Hinderer around because it does have a lot of great qualities, but that is the one thing on this knife that I just don't like, is that right there. You don't have the problem with this knife. Once you get it to fall on your finger, it is well past that detent to be able to close the knife. Very, very nice. They could have easily not had it in that spot. So the design is really well done. Thought of, it's a lot of thought went into this. You do have your lock bar insert, which, of course, you have the area there where it pops out. Just really, really nice. And that's the extra manufacturing that you get here out of an integral is what makes the cost go up. It's a lot harder to be able to machine and a full integral knife, and then of course this one's got even more stuff going on to be able to make it all work. As you can see, maybe we'll get behind the camera, but as you can see, I mean, all this is milled out one solid piece of titanium, and that's just tough to do. Not only is it tough to do, but it's also tough to get the, we'll do better shots, but it's also tough to get a real good finish in there whenever you're having to do that, because this is not a very deep knife. It's thick enough for my hand size to not feel really like I'm, a giant checking hands with a midget. It's on the cusp of being too thin for my big hands, but it is not. I can actually get a good grip around it. My fingers are touching my palm, but it's not getting in the way. There's absolutely no hot spots with this awesome pocket clip because it is flat, has the ball, so it works really well in pocket. And it also, the lights just flashed. I think there's a storm outside. Now I don't have my lights. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get the lights back on. Okay. Not everything still looks the same, so I'm sorry about that. Power went out. Might go happen again. But even with the lights on, I still don't see the same kind of viewing area that I did before. So we'll see how this goes and how this looks after editing. But anyways, I don't even remember where I was at trying to figure out what the hell just happened. But let's go ahead and see what this thing cuts like. So I'm not going to do my regular cutting test. I'm only going to do the cardboard and the and the paracord. The twisted sisal rope is really, really aggressive, and this is a brand new knife that he sent me. I don't want to scratch the blade. I don't want to do anything like that because it's not my knife, but we are going to show you how it cuts the typical EDC task that you come across, mainly cardboard, because we all cut cardboard. So the fact that this thing is about 19 thousandths behind the edge, full flat grind, the cardboard cutting ability of this knife is absolutely amazing. Coupled with the ergonomics, it actually cuts so very well. It feels like there's no resistance. It's 130 thousandths thick, so there's just not a lot to actually get in the way to give it resistance. So cuts really, really well. The edge that they put on from all Riot knives have been amazing. Same thing with the paracord. It just cuts really, really well. It's a tool. That's what it's made to do. And so we're happy to see that, right? It's just one of those things. A knife has to be able to cut, right? So getting this thing with all of its parts and its intricacies for being an integral, the lockup, absolutely solid as a rock. I haven't had to touch anything as far as the pivot, any of the action, any of the hardware. It locks up like a bank vault, and it locks up at almost the perfect spot. No blade play, wiggle, anything like that. It's just an amazing, amazing knife. And then as you can see, like I said, no adjusting whatsoever. It is perfectly centered. I love the cutout all the way through. We're going to see if we can't turn the camera out and get some specs and some closer looks at these details that I'm talking about for the Leon Mah L1 full integral. All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a good look. Now, there's that really awesomely done shred carbon fiber that I was talking about. Really nice, clean design. We got to have a way to put these carbon fiber scales on there. So you have two screws on each side. Let's see. Yeah, there's one right underneath that pocket clip. But the transitions from on the bolsters to that area, absolutely non-existent. See if we can get to see that really nice orange peel. And I believe that orange peel is, oh man, come on camera, is produced by a wire wheel. You have a lot of different ways to actually put orange peel on a knife. The wire wheel creates a little bit less heat than the other ones. So that's really cool. The only reason I learned that is because I saw a video with them talking about that at Blade Show. Leon Mah was discussing that. And because these knives coming from Riot, they all get hand attention. So they're all, produced, high-end production produced by Riot, but there's a lot of handwork that goes into these things, and that's why you have the quality that you do from a company like Riot. It's really second to none in the manufacturing era right now. There's just not many manufacturers that I would say are up to par with Riot. There is your S90V blade steel marking right there, and then you have the Leon Mah designs right there, the logo. So not a lot going on as far as the branding. There is that very, very small but very functional nail nick that you can use as a nail nick to obviously roll this knife open. However, the fact that I can just get the fat of my finger there and flick it out really is amazing. And I kind of wanted to show you that, the differences. I mean, first we got pretty similar overall size knives here. Obviously, this is a budget knife made by We, but the difference in as far as the actual detent and the way the designs are. So I can actually get this. I mean, this is a good detent, but I can actually get this to fail just like that. Now, this one is not a full integral. We should be able to see a knife with a detent that doesn't do that. Now this detent, I'm trying to fail this. It's, don't get me wrong, the Stinger is one that actually works relatively well, but I just don't get why any knife leaves the door with a detent that doesn't perform like this. I get it. Oh shit! Fire. Sorry, hitting the camera. I just don't get it, especially with integrals. It seems to be so hard to do, but yet Leon Mah and Riot pulled it off. It is amazing, and that's why I love this knife so much. So as you can see inside the circle, it's not huge. It's a relatively small knife. We've got about 7 1/4 overall inch on this guy with a 4 1/8 inch handle, blade length about 3 1/8. So it is just slightly over 3 inches. So if you live in a communist state where you have to have a knife under 3 inches, this is going to be on the absolute cuff. I suggest moving to a more freedom-loving state, in my opinion. But of course, you guys know I'm very passionate about that. Oh, and by the way, fuck you, Google and YouTube. Haha, you commie bastards. So anyways, that's just my thing. You've got a weight on this guy of about 3.4 ounces. I think it's freaking awesome. Yeah, you don't have your blade ratios, you know, how some people like, you know, an ounce per inch. So 3.4 ounces with a 3 1/8 inch blade is pretty damn close. So the weight on this guy, I think, is spot on. 130 thousandths thick here, 19 thousandths behind the edge. One thing I did not measure, and we're going to go ahead and do that now, is the thickness. The thickness is about 535. I really like that thickness because if it was any thinner, it really would be too small for my hands. The fact that it's an integral, you know, they can't do integrals too thin because you have to incorporate that lock bar in there. It's just one of those things that I really am glad that they did, because the thickness on this guy is about perfect for the size to make it really comfortable in my hands. What else? Though I said the weight. So those are your specs. Let's go ahead and put it against some of the other models. Well, since we had this out, let's put it against the Fair & Forge Stinger. Two very, very similar size knives. Of course, this one is thin, and it is almost a little too thin because of that. As far as this way and this way, it works. And this one has a finger troll that does allow my finger to get in there. It makes it just a little bit better because I can't do that with this. But the fact that it is thicker makes it doable for somebody with my hand size. Let's go ahead and put it up against one of my all-time favorite Leon Mah designs, the Field Duty EDC. Very similar in overall size. Maybe got it just a little bit. Definitely a taller blade with a hole blur versus a fuller and a flipper. Detents on both of these are absolutely phenomenal, and that's why you really need to look at Leon Mah designs if you are looking at your next purchase. Now, granted, these are high-end production knives. I mean, a full integral. So yeah, your price tags are going to be a little bit, but I'm telling you, I would put like this knife against any of your Benchmade, Spyderco EDC knives. This one blows it out of the water. No matter what model you come at me with, this is going to blow it out of the water. So keep that in mind. That's how much I love his design. So yeah, guys, am I a little biased? Yep, sure. This is not my knife. He did send it to me, but Leon is such a great guy. He wants me to tell him the truth. He wants me to tell him what I like and what I don't like. There's just not much that I can say that I don't like. Let me wipe this blade off a little bit for me cutting stuff. You know, it's just not the size that I usually gravitate to. Look at this. This is the Leon Mah Coup 4.0. So, yep, there's your size difference between some of his other models that I really enjoy. And then the Field Duty regular size. Yeah, it's just a smaller knife. I personally know that I'm going to send this to a couple other reviewers, obviously, and somebody like Chris over at Grady's Gear. This knife he's going to fall in love with. I am almost 100% sure. This is a perfect size knife for him. I think most people in the EDC community are more minimalist than this guy. This guy right here, I'm not as a minimalist. I carry big knives. And so it's just a thing that I enjoy. But this knife was a genius move by Mr. Leon Mah. Now, he does have an integral that is larger than this that I will probably get my hands on at one point to kind of, you know, feel out. But this design and the shape, everything about this screams almost perfect EDC knife, right? For a high end. This thing has class. It looks really good. It feels really good. It's got the best materials and best manufacturing out there. Where's my flashlight? This was a gift from Lefty EDC. Look at that thing. This is our now. So if you can see down in there, look at the finishing in that pocket that is cut out of one piece of titanium. Kind of hard to see. But the finishing that is down in there, no machine lines, no nothing. The transitions between where this carbon fiber and titanium starts, rounded off in every single spot on this knife, just amazing. It's just an amazing knife in hand for comfort and looks. I mean, it's that good, guys. It is one of those knives that you don't want to put down once you put it in your pocket. And it was very, very tough for me to not have this in my pocket. Of course, during the review process, I tried to carry this every single day. And sometimes it would be a primary and sometimes it would be a secondary, because this still falls into the secondary category for myself. But it's just so beautiful. I mean, every time that I would hand this to somebody at work who likes these more simple designs, and the size. They absolutely, when they flick this thing, we're like, oh, whoa, is this assisted? That's what it feels like. It feels assisted because of that wonderful detent, and it makes it fun, even for a flipper for me. But then I showed them this, and they were like, what? Being able to do the reverse flick is really, really fun. Like, now you saw me miss that one spot, and it's not near as intuitive as a whole. So, I mean, but once I got the hang of this, I was able to open it up with that reverse flick reliably, and it was really hard to keep out of the pocket. So I'm really, really grateful for Mr. Leon Mah for allowing me to check this knife out. I absolutely love it. It will be going to other YouTubers in the future, so stay tuned for that. You will see this more. This is a relatively new or a brand new design, so definitely keep your eye out, and definitely in the description, Leon Mah's Instagram and website, so you can go check out all of his models, what's available, what's coming, and hit him up. He's a great guy to talk to on Instagram. He will answer any questions that you may have. I will answer any questions that you have for me, even though I am not an expert. I'm just a guy who loves knives and likes to talk and show you guys what I have in. So please stay safe in this crazy world that we are living in, and we will see you in the next one.